Okay, in this part of the program, going to be dealing with the safety aspects on the mountain, and with me today is Tom Benalstein, who is the head of the Snow Safety Department. And there's various aspects of safety on the mountain, dealing with skier safety and also avalanche control. So we'll just get Tom to explain a little bit about each portion of it. And if we can start with the public safety, Tom, and the sort of the skier's responsibility as well as the area's responsibility in putting up signage, that sort of information for the skiers.
Yeah. As you said, we're in charge of the snow safety aspect of the mountain, and public safety is probably the largest part of the snow safety. The public must be aware of their own skiers' responsibilities. Skiing safely, skiing under control, just following the general safety rules, and as well reading the signs and understanding what they mean around the mountain. Just ensures that person skis in a safe manner and doesn't have any problems and doesn't get into any trouble.
Good. Do you have information available in pamphlet form or anything like that that the skiers can pack along with them just as a safety reminder?
Yeah, there is the Whitewater Ski Area brochure, which has, that's actually one other aspect of public information as far as probably skier safety as well, is just the way the runs are coded is with regard to skier ability. Mm-hmm. And there are tips in that type of thing as far as general safety procedures and posters in the lodge as well. Go ahead.
On the signage, we have three basic signs that are used throughout the ski industry. The green circle, I guess, for the beginner runs, the blue square for intermediate runs, and the black diamond. That varies from area to area, I understand, doesn't it?
I think
black
it does,
diamond
yeah.
In some ski areas may be the equivalent to a blue square in other ski areas.
That's right. I think one of the problems that we have here is people understanding that in some ski areas they use the green circle for the easiest run, mm-hmm. and in other areas they use the green circle for what they would class as a beginner run. And I think that causes confusion with the public. As for instance, some of our runs might be the easiest runs on a particular slope, but they might not necessarily be a beginner classed run.
That's right. So even with signage there, one should still use a fair bit of caution in where they're skiing.
Yeah, exactly. Becoming familiar with the ski area, once people have skied in a particular area, they get to know what runs they're capable of skiing, and then they don't have to push themselves or put themselves into any kind of hazardous terrain according to their skier ability. So it's familiarization with the area and with the signage in the particular area. It really helps a lot.
Good. Also notice from time to time and in different places in the lodge there are large posters that have the skier's responsibility code posted on them with pictures.
Right.
And that's a good idea. It keeps people aware of it all the time.
That's for sure. It's important.
Mm-hmm. The closed signs that we see on the mountain, usually towards the edges of the trails and in the tree lines. Maybe you could explain a little bit about these closed signs.
We actually have two types of closed signs at Whitewater, and one is the basic international type of closed sign with a red cross through it, meaning that ski trail or that area is closed because of a particular hazard, whether there are some rocks in that area or whether just for a variety of reasons. The other type of closed sign is that of an avalanche closure sign, and that's a different type of sign, usually only seen in ski areas that do have avalanche terrain in and around the area. And it's a flip sign, and I'll explain when we see the sign as to how it opens up and shows that people can ski in the area, although it does still explain that people are skiing at their own risk, or to ski with caution because they are going into an avalanche area. If the sign reads closed, then the public are asked not to cross that closure line, and they must understand the severity of people that do cross closure lines, in that it is a very hazardous situation and can pose a lot of danger to themselves as well as anybody else that has to rescue them.
Great. There's another sign that we see quite often here is the ski area boundary sign, and maybe you could explain just
Sure.
the connotations of the ski area boundary
Right.
sign.
Ski area boundary sign is one that the public should become very well familiar with. Again, it's becoming familiar with the ski area in general, knowing where the ski area boundary is, and as well understanding what the ski area boundary sign means. It basically delineates the ski area boundary, but more so tells the public that if they go beyond that ski area boundary sign, they're leaving any type of service that the ski area might provide as far as public safety or anything else for that matter. And that means that they're skiing at their own risk, and they must understand that there are a lot of hazards outside of the ski area, including avalanche hazards as well as any other natural hazards that they might run into, in that if they do run into trouble, there's nobody to pick them up or conduct any first aid on them at all. So again, they must be very much familiar with where the ski area boundary signs are and understand the consequences, in that they are making a decision that they are taking on the responsibility to leave the area, and they don't have any assistance from the ski area.
Good. Our public information boards are around the lodge, as well as at the base of the lifts, and I believe at the top of the summit chairlift,
Yeah.
showing people directions to other runs, and also information as far as avalanches. How often are these updated, Tom?
We have two large public information boards that we added to the bottom of the summit chairlift and the bottom of the hummingbird lift this year, and I think they've provided a really good service to people. And they're updated every morning. They have information such as current temperatures, the amount of new snow we've had, the areas for recommended skiing, the visibility, the areas that are closed within the ski area, the avalanche hazard conditions, and any other general information that anybody else within the ski area wants to put on those boards. So they do provide a lot of information, and the public should use them every morning to update their own information as to where they might want to ski, or where they are able to ski, depending upon the current conditions. As well, there's one more public information blackboard just in the hall outside of the ticket office, and that's for the mountain weather. And it's always an interesting board to read in the morning. Gives a weather forecast. It again gives weather data as to the current information as of that morning from our weather stations, new snow and the temperatures. So again, it gives people an idea of what's going on.
Good. Avalanche hazard evaluation. I guess this is one of the biggest concerns and one of the biggest guessing games in a ski area. Maybe you could explain a little bit about that, Tom. What the weather has
Sure.
has to do with the snowpack, and
Right.
not just the snow
Right.
itself.
Right. You're right in saying that in a way it is one of the biggest guessing games, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to collect as much information as we can with regard to the weather, with regard to the snowpack, and a lot of other situations, and we try and piece this all together, put the information together, and evaluate the current avalanche hazard. It's a difficult thing to do, basically because we're dealing with Mother Nature, and she throws a lot of variables at us all the time, and the conditions are changing continually. It's not a stagnant type of situation where one day you can say we have a high avalanche hazard, and the next day it's going to stay high. It's changing, or the other way around, low versus high. But by obtaining avalanche hazard evaluations, or carrying out evaluations, we're using our two weather stations, gaining weather data there on a daily basis. Actually, we take weather readings twice a day. Weather readings with regard to our total snowpack, to the amount of new snow we have, to the amount of snow in a storm cycle, and all the temperatures, maximum temperatures, minimum temperatures, and just a variety of information that gives us accurate information as to what's going on and how that might affect the hazard at any given point in time. As well, we're out in the field. We have some snow study plots where we'll dig down into the snow and look at the different layers of the snow and try and assess and determine the strengths or weaknesses of those layers. Try and decide how they're changing, how fast they're changing, and how that might affect any given slope at a different time. As well, outside of the study plots, we're looking at We're looking at a variety of slopes on different aspects, say a north-facing or a south-facing slope, and also at different elevations, because the hazard can change at different elevations as well as on a different aspect. So we're trying to gain as much information in the field, as well as general field observations such as natural avalanche activity or avalanche activity that might occur by a skier skiing a particular slope. And we piece all this information together, usually on a weekly basis, and fill out hazard evaluation forms, again generally on a weekly basis unless the storm cycles are more frequent. And then we continually update this information all the time. So it just helps us to assess where people can ski safely, generally, and also provide some type of information for people that want to leave the area boundary or on their own, but we can provide a little bit of information to them as to how we feel the general avalanche hazard is at the time. Inside the lodge, there's a lot of public information regarding the avalanche hazard conditions. The hazard signs saying low, moderate, or high, and an explanation as to what that means, and which runs are open, and particularly runs that do have avalanche terrain either above them or are right within avalanche areas. So there's a lot of, or adequate amount of public information regarding the avalanche hazard, and that's how we gather it through those different procedures. Good.
Sounds interesting. Do you share the information with other ski areas and the environmental control people at all, as far as your findings in the snow pits and typical avalanche activity during the season?
Yeah, we definitely do that. There are different times when groups get together. For instance, we are an associate member of the Canadian Avalanche Association, so we have there is an annual conference every spring where this type of information is communicated if we have any particular or any interesting situations that are different from other things, something that may be confusing, something that might have happened that we didn't expect happen. All this type of information is communicated back and forth, and also trying to upgrade and continue to keep our standards high regarding just the basic data collection, because that's probably the most important thing that we can continue to do is, according to Canadian standards, collect that type of information and that data at a particular standard. And then that data is collected in the same method by every other industry, whether it's a ski area or a helicopter skiing industry or say a highways personnel. And then in that way, then everybody can talk the same language, and it helps a lot. Helps a lot in a learning situation.
Good. Weather stations. We noticed a couple weather stations on the mountain. One down at the base here in the what we refer to as the swamp. Maybe you could explain a little bit about the equipment used in there and just the general activities that take place at the weather station.
Sure. When we do go out to the weather station, I can point out some of the different types of equipment that we have. We have a precipitation gauge or a rain gauge. Hopefully it's not going to rain in it too often. But it does record the amount of precipitation that does fall, whether it's snow or rain, so that gives us some useful information. We have the snowboards, and the snowboards show the amount of snow that we've had in a given period of time, whether it's a 24-hour period of time or a 12-hour, or whether it's just a storm cycle. All that information helps to assess the stability of the snowpack, how well the snow is settling. The other piece of information that's useful to us is the height of the snowpack. So we have a total snow stake. So any public information that comes out on the radio or on a telephone as far as how much snow we have up here, that's where the information is gathered through the total snow stake.
Just ask the question again.
Couple locations on the mountain, Tom. I've seen weather stations. One down on the flats just by the day lodge here, where we commonly refer to it, I guess, as the swamp. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the weather stations, what kind of equipment is in the weather stations, and just what information is collected there.
Sure. Whitewater is actually really fortunate in that we have quite a bit of weather equipment, very expensive weather equipment that is supplied to us through the Department of Highways. Because highways are responsible for maintaining our access road, they also want to gain data as far as the weather for the the control of the road. So we benefit from that information as well. Some of this equipment includes a precipitation gauge, which records the amount of snowfall or rain in any case that may fall at any given time. It records it in millimeters. Other equipment include basic snowboards, which record the amount of snow that falls in, say, a 12-hour or a 24-hour or, say, a storm period of time. Again, that gives us information as to how quickly the snow is settling, how much snow we have at again, how fast a period of time, which can happen quite easily here at Whitewater. Another piece of information is just a total snow stake, which records the amount of total snow we have in the snowpack. And that will fluctuate. That snowpack will settle or it will grow depending upon whether we have snow or no snow. That type of information, the public listen to that type of information all the time on a radio or a telephone as to what the total snowpack is. Well, it's these weather stations, the weather observations that are taken every day give them that type of information. There's also a box called a Stevenson screen that has a hygrothermograph. That's a bit of a fancy word, but basically all it does is it gives us a present temperature and the relative humidity on a graph, and the graph lasts for a week time period, so you can actually see how the temperature fluctuates and how the humidity changes over a weekly time period. And that is extremely valuable information to us with regard to hazard evaluations. Maximum and minimum and present thermometers are also there, as well as a triple beam balance scale, which we use to weigh the snow, and that gives us quite a bit of information as to again, the amount of moisture in the snow, how heavy the snow is, and we use some different formulas to figure out when the avalanche hazard is increasing or when it is decreasing, depending upon the lightness of snow that we do have at any time. So just a variety of weather instruments, again, coming together to give us some information that we can use, both for public information as well as for evaluating the hazard for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Sounds interesting, the amount of humidity in the snow or the amount of moisture. Okay, Tom, with the changes in humidity and I guess the moisture content in the upper levels of the snow, I guess from the sun and percolation from the sun and that
Right.
sort of thing has quite an effect on the avalanche hazard.
Yes, it can. It can for sure. Actually, there's a number of ways in which the snow can have a lot of moisture in it. One, it can come down as fairly wet snow because of a warm temperature during the storm cycle. Two, as you said, there can be sun or exposure on the snowpack. Three, as well, it can actually rain on the snowpack and create a lot of weight in those upper layers. That definitely has an effect on the stability of the snow, depending upon the type of layers that are underneath that snow.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it depends upon a particular situation, but there are definitely marked effects with regard to heavier snow, or on the other side of the scale, very, very light snow. If we get extremely light snow, and again, we have kind of a formula to figure out a particular number value for that type of snow, we can again have a higher avalanche activity because it is so light. It just doesn't bond. There's a lot of air in that snow. So one way or the other, one extreme or the other can cause problems as far as avalanche hazards.
Avalanche rescue. Actually, avalanche control would probably fall before the rescue aspect, and hopefully we won't get into avalanche rescue. But avalanche control, I guess there's 2 or 3 mechanical ways that this can be done, as well as the nature's own course. Maybe you could explain a few of the things that you do in the area.
Just talking about avalanche hazard evaluations, that ties in with our control procedures. We put all the information together, and then we decide how stable a snowpack is, and if we feel that there is a good possibility of trying to get rid of or trying to stabilize this loose snow on top that might cause us problems, or say loose snow maybe even underneath. There are a number of ways in which we do that. The simplest way after a new snowfall is to actually get out onto the slopes within the ski area boundary and ski cut them. So in teams of 2, very safely, using this basic safety standard procedures which we've developed, we'll start at the top of a slope and just cut in and cut across a slope, going from a safe place across the slope to another safe place. We won't ski cut a slope if there's any more than, say, 30 centimeters, which would be about a foot of snow on any particular slope, because then it would be too hazardous to ourselves, but we assess that when we're out in the field. If there's too much snow and we can't ski cut it to see if the snow, the surface, that we're talking about new snow basically in this situation, there's too much snow to ski cut safely, well then we will use explosives. And a couple of different ways of using explosives. The most common that we use is that of just a simple hand charge. So it's an explosive with a cap and a fuse assembly, and it's like a big firecracker. And again, we'll stand in a safe location when the public aren't on the mountain or aren't in a particular place, and throw it into some areas which we call start zone locations. And the start zone locations would be areas where an avalanche could potentially start, or where the wind has built up a slope or deposited snow onto a slope, creating a sufficient hazard. So we will throw these in. They take about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes to explode, and then we can see what the hazard is in that particular spot.
I guess over a period of time you sort of learn and have plotted over a period of time where the major areas are, so that when you do go out on a bombing route, that it's predetermined actually where you're going. It's not a hit and miss type situation.
Not really. Within the snow safety plan that we have set up, we have a number of routes, ski touring routes, that cover the main problem areas, and we have posted specific areas which we call shot point locations. And from these shot point locations, we'll throw the shot in, and at that point in time, then we make a decision depending upon where the wind deposited the snow, or where we see some buildup, or where maybe some cornices are built up. Then we can decide at that time where we want to place our shots, where it's most effective for us. As well as the hand charges, we do have 2 avalancher guns on the mountain, which are positioned in strategic locations so that they can, again, shoot up into start zone locations. These guns are used not right up on top of the ridges, but they're used down lower, so that you don't actually have to go up into some dangerous areas. If we do have a really extreme avalanche hazard, we'll use these guns and shoot them into these areas. Using pressurized nitrogen, it's a large dart, more or less, with a nose cone and a tail fin assembly on it, and it's shot out of this gun. When it lands into the slope, it will explode on impact and hopefully create some type of avalanche and stabilize the snow so that we can open an area for the skiers to enjoy.
Sounds like a lot of fun, running around with packs of dynamite.
Well,
natural control, Tom. I guess this is a phenomenon that we see fairly often, especially this time of the year in the spring.
Correct. Yeah.
What causes a lot of the natural releases?
Well, as we were talking before about heavy snow because of sun, or say heavy snow because of just the weight of the new snow that's falling, or say rain, or potentially weak layers underneath, could eventually, because of a temperature change down below, or because of water filtering down to that weak layer, create a natural avalanche. And natural control is a really good indicator for us as to how extreme the avalanche hazard is. If we see a lot of avalanches running naturally, we can definitely assume that we have either a high avalanche hazard or an extreme avalanche hazard. So it's a really good piece of information to us. Again, information such as natural avalanches that occur are all recorded on a year-to-year basis, so that we can provide, so this information can provide, again, a learning tool to us as far as, well, we had these particular situations, the snowpack looked like this, and all of a sudden on a north-facing slope, an avalanche released in the middle of the day. And we can put this information together on a year-to-year basis. When the staff that work in the snow safety department have worked in an area for, say, at least 3 years or so, it's this type of information and this type of experience within one particular ski area that makes that individual very valuable to the ski area, valuable tool, because they are very familiar with different types of situations that have occurred in the past and could reoccur in the future as well. So all this information is really useful to us.
Good. Notice you running around with a little four-legged partner there over the last year and a half. That's Jess, and maybe you could explain what Jess does up here.
Sure. Jess is my golden retriever, and I've trained him as an avalanche search dog. Whenever he is around the mountain, he's not up here to play or run around and lick people and chase after people. It's, even though it's a game for him, it's not a game for Whitewater to have a dog up here. The general rules of Whitewater are that there are no dogs allowed. And again, whenever Jess is seen around the mountain, he's out there to work, and he's out there being trained for searching. He's 2 years old now, so he's been here for 2 seasons, and he's again just now starting to become quite valuable to us, in that we can bury an individual for a practice session, or bury a rucksack or a toque, and make up as difficult a problem as we can for Jess. He doesn't see where any of these things are buried, and we'll bring him out onto the slope, tell him to search, and he's learned the game now to basically search with his nose, and it seems to be quite an easy job for him. It's just a matter of fine-tuning him from now on, getting him more used to hand signals so that he can work more efficiently on the slope. But if anybody was buried in any situation where they weren't carrying an electronic transceiver, where they couldn't be picked up quickly, well, the avalanche dog would be invaluable in that regard, because they could find them a lot quicker than somebody or a group of people having to probe for a long period of time to try and locate a person buried.
His basic training then has been to search out the human scent versus a particular human scent, I guess.
That's correct, yeah. It's a very general human scent. Starting to train him, I started with my own scent, with, say, my own ski glove and my own pack, and then burying myself and having him search for me. And then from there I just progressed on to just trying other individuals. And yeah, it's just a general human scent that he's looking for in the snow.
It takes a couple of years, I guess, for the dog to develop a good nose. And,
yeah, in a way I'd say so, but as well, I'd say even after the first year he was useful to us. After a couple of years, after 3 years, after 4 years, then he'll really progress a lot. And like I say, the biggest thing is fine-tuning him so that he works a lot more efficiently and can work quicker and knows the game.
In the event of an avalanche rescue situation, what happens in that situation?
Okay, if we have any type of an avalanche accident within the ski area, we have an organized rescue plan, such that we have probes, which are pieces of conduit pipe that we can use to probe down into the snow to locate where people are. We have packs, rescue packs with transceivers, with skins, with blankets, with first aid gear, all in strategic locations around the ski area, so that if anybody was caught in an avalanche, then a group of people can go out in an organized fashion and carry out a search in a safe manner, if it is safe to do so. So we do have an organized rescue plan there. The procedures are all written up in waterproof paper so that somebody can just look at the list and just run down the checklist and make sure that everything is covered. And then manpower around the mountain can be utilized in that regard.
Good. And I guess there's access to other bodies that are available to help, such as the Rescue Group.
That's correct.
And the Okanagan helicopters.
Yeah, they would probably be called right away if we did have some type of an accident. We would use the manpower around the ski area for more or less the first party to go out and do the initial search, and then we would have to have a backup crew just in case the people weren't found immediately, and we need more manpower all the time. So we do have a list of resources, and those resources are called at a given time.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's a lot of information we've covered today on avalanche and public safety primarily. And thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Jim.
And